Dick Fisher, Vice President of Dole Commodity Foods and Food Service. Woody hired me with the company in 1979, very early spring. And it's kind of a funny story. We tell it all the time when we see other people, and he's probably tired of hearing it, but I bugged him quite a bit because there was something about Woody when I first met him, about the company. It was Castle and Cooke at that time. And I just felt I had a good feeling about it, And in those particular days, it took 2 or 3 weeks for him to give you sometimes a second interview. And I had an offer from another company, but I just had this feeling about Dole and that first interview with Woody. So I kept calling him. And I know what he was thinking. He was thinking, who is this guy? And he's kind of bugging me, So how do I get rid of him? Well, finally I talked him into giving me a second interview, and luckily I was hired. And that's how I first met Woody, and it was 1979. So Woody's one of those guys that reminds me of a great teacher or a coach that you had in school that had a big influence on your life. He was one of those guys that took you under his wing and kind of guided you in the right direction. Little things that seem basic to most people, like making sure that you never lie in our business, You always tell the truth. Always err on the side of a customer. Little things like that may seem simple, but in the 33 years I've been with the company, there are people that just don't quite understand that. You need to find people's likes and dislikes when you're calling on them so that you can establish a relationship over a long period of time. That kind of stuff means a lot. It's basic, but Woody was the kind of guy that would teach you those things at a very early time in your career. I always remembered that. When we started in the business, there were no written contracts. Everything was done with a handshake. Your word was your bond. And so we would establish relationships with customers over time. And, when the older guys with tenure brought a young guy in, there was a couple phrases Woody used to use. He used to use it with me all the time was, hey, Fish, I set the table. So, that means he's already done what I'm going to have to try to pick up and do. And the other comment he used to make all the time was, Fish, I made you, I can break you. So I always remember that one too. Well, to me, Woody's an idea guy. He always loved the project. And I think that's the thing about Woody that's amazing is that he spread his talent over 3 or 4 different companies over the 33 or 4 year career that he's had. If you give him a project, he has a tendency to go after it, and he loves it. And then once he's over, he's ready for that next project. Woody's very innovative. He did things with companies that 10 years ago that we're now starting to do now even here at Dole. So he's a very innovative guy, and he sees things before they really happen. A lot of people don't have that ability. That's a gift. The thing that I admire about Woody is he's a great family guy. When he first got married, he married his high school sweetheart, Sandy. She was a cheerleader, he was a jock. It was like a scene out of Grease, And they had these 2 beautiful boys, and now they've got, I think, 5 grandkids. So every time Woody pulls out a picture of the grandkids, he just beams. And that's his legacy too. I mean, that's one of the things about Woody that I love is that he's a great family guy. And I got to say that Sandy spoils him, and she's the greatest cook in the world. She's a great Greek cook. So I've had the chance to eat some of that beautiful food that she makes. So Woody's kind of like a rolling stone. I think that's why he has worked for 2 or 3 huge companies because once he feels like he's done his job, he's ready to go on to something else. So that's one thing about Woody I've always admired.